Hello and welcome to this webinar on endpoint assessment. The purpose of this presentation is to detail firstly the requirements necessary to undertake EPA and secondly to give you an overview of the complete application process from start to finish. What is EPA? Towards the end of your apprenticeship, you will be required to undertake a final assessment assessed independently from your employer. This is known as endpoint assessment. CIBSE is on the register of endpoint assessment organisations and can deliver assessments for 4 apprenticeship standards, 1 for level 3, 1 for level 4 and 2 for level 6. Upon completion you also have the option to become a member of CIBSE and gain Engineering Council registration in the form of EngTech for levels 3 and 4 or iEng for level 6. This is not compulsory, but if you wish to gain this, you'll need to submit an organisational chart along with the development action plan, which will be talked about shortly. Starting the EPA. Before you start on endpoint assessment, you will need to have finished your on-programme training and achieved the pass result for the associated qualification for the standard you are going for. I would stress at this point that you will need to have agreed with your employer as well as your training provider that you are ready for endpoint assessment and also that you have covered off all the KSBs, the knowledge, skills and behaviours required. What are the required qualifications? You need to have evidence that you have successfully completed the relevant qualifications for the apprenticeship you are going for. For all levels, you'll also need to evidence that you have achieved the level 2 standard in both maths and English. These certificates will need to be uploaded when you submit your online application, which we will move on to shortly. This is a brief overview of the process from start to finish. You'll complete the Gateway application online. You'll then receive a Gateway email with further instruction on the next steps. Once you've submitted these documents for the next stage, they'll then be reviewed. If the review is successful, you'll then be invited to an interview day, and within 6 weeks from the point of interview, you'll be informed of the results. So in short, there are 3 stages here: application, interview, and results. So now I'll move on to the application itself. When you're ready to apply online, this is what the online application process will look like. You'll start by filling out all the standard contact information before you'll get to the application details and the stage where you'll need to upload certain documents. You'll need to select at this stage if you're also applying for CIBSE professional registration. If you're already a member of CIBSE, you can add your membership number in here, and you'll also need to add your ULN, which is the unique learner number. Now this is a 10-digit code which is essential information for us at this stage to process your application. If you're unsure or you don't know what this number is, please ask your training provider. You will then need to confirm the standard you are applying for example, whether you're going for the level 3, level 4 or one of the level 6 standards. At this stage, you'll also need to upload copies of your qualifications as well as your photo ID. Just make sure that they are original copies and that the image is clear. You'll also need to present your photo ID at the interview stage, and I'll come on to this later in the presentation. Just to stress that we won't need to see a hard copy of your ID at any point. If you're also applying for professional registration with CIBSE, you'll also need to upload copies of your development action plan and organisational chart. So this is only applicable if you're applying for CIBSE Engineering Council registration, and your development action plan is a 1-page statement of your short-term goals, 1 to 3 years, your medium-term goals, 3 to 7 years, and your long-term goals, 7 to 10 years, and how you propose to meet them. Your organisational chart will show your position within your department or company and who you report to. So now we move on to the final part of the online application. You'll need to enter details of both your sponsor/employer and your training provider. Once you have submitted the application, both your sponsor and training provider will be contacted using the information you provide at this stage. We don't require any signatures. Just make sure that your employer and your training provider both know you are submitting. After this, you'll just need to confirm your declaration and then you can submit. For levels 3 and 4, this graphic shows the next stages following the submission of your online application. You'll submit your online application, and within about 2 weeks you'll receive a gateway email. This email will include information such as when your interview will be and more details about the next steps. You'll submit your written report at least 3 weeks prior to your assessment. You'll then attend the assessment, where you'll also be required to do a presentation and Q&A session before a structured Q&A session informed by your written report. Then, within 6 weeks of the interview, you'll receive your results. And the timeline for level 6. This is more or less the same as the timeline for levels 3 and 4, only you get a bit more time to submit your research assignment and your engineering practice report. You'll receive more information regarding dates and deadlines in an email following submission. You can also check the CIBSE website on endpoint assessment for the latest information and updates. I'll now move on to cover the technical project/research assignment. As covered in the timeline, you will submit your online application, and within about 2 weeks you'll receive an email about the next steps. At this stage, you'll also be assigned either your technical project brief for levels 3 and 4 or your research assignment for level 6. You'll need to prepare a PowerPoint presentation for both levels. For levels 3 and 4, this will be a 10-minute long presentation with 25 to 30 hours for research and preparation. For level 6, the research assignment, this will be a 15 to 20-minute presentation with 30 to 40 hours to research and prepare. Please remember that you can always seek advice at this stage from your employer and training provider. Although we at CIBSE can't help with any technical advice, we can offer you general advice in regard to any questions you might have, and at the end of this presentation you'll see the best ways in which to contact us. I'll now go into a bit more detail in regard to the technical project for levels 3 and 4. Once you have submitted your application, CIBSE will issue you with a technical brief, and you will respond in respect of your specialism as indicated on your application form. The presentation should be no more than 10 minutes long. It will be delivered on the day of your interview and be prepared for a 10 to 15-minute question and answer session. You'll need to come up with a project plan summarizing the actions needed to complete a task. You'll have to present at least 2 options and your rationale for which one you select over any others. This must also reference the following points. So the relevant scientific and engineering principles, the relevant legislation and standards, health and safety, environmental/sustainability concerns, and you should also include calculations and drawings appropriate for level 3 and level 4. You also need to include some reflective evaluation. What worked, what didn't work, etc., how you overcame any obstacles, and what you would do differently next time. A sample technical project might be that you're on a team asked to carry out a feasibility study for a project, so looking at the early stage of a design process. There will be supporting questions you'll need to answer as well, such as how you would approach a load assessment, and also you would need to explain any techniques that you use. I'll now talk about the level 6 equivalent of the technical project, the research assignment. Like the technical project, you will be given a question randomly allocated from a bank of questions, and you will answer in respect to your speciality. The brief will assess your ability to integrate a range of knowledge, skills and behaviours you have acquired during your apprenticeship. So it's related to the technical specialism as indicated on your application form, should be between 15 and 20 minutes long. Again, it will be delivered on the day of your interview and also be prepared for a 10 to 15-minute question and answer session. The research assignment requirements. In response to the research assignment, you should Research and analyse the design, performance and/or delivery of building services systems and components with a view to innovation or improvement. You should talk about the advantages and disadvantages. You should consider any changes or innovations. You should also make an informed prediction. Again, it's worth mentioning that although the responses must be entirely your own work, you are permitted at this stage to seek advice from your employer or your training provider. A research assignment sample might be to identify an improvement or innovation that will impact on the design and/or delivery of a building services system. Your reporting of this research must discuss advantages and disadvantages and make an informed, evidence-based prediction as to what will happen as a result of this improvement. Some final points to consider. Remember that there are no right or wrong answers on either the technical project or the research assignment. Your proposal is based on your own understanding, making a suggestion based on your discipline and explaining that thought process. Please present the technical project or research assignment in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. Also make sure you're familiar with the device you're using on the day of your presentation and that you know how to share your screen. Also bear in mind the time constrictions. Get your suggestions summarized quickly, use the remaining time to focus on your chosen solution, going into detail about how and why you came up with it, demonstrating your technical knowledge and understanding. And again, the work must be your own, but up to the interview you can seek advice from either your employer or your training provider. Finally, please refer to the guidance online. There's a good amount of detailed information there which will help you prepare both for your presentation and subsequent interview. I will now cover what else you'll need to prepare for prior to your assessment interview date. Again, this depends on what level you'll be applying for. For levels 3 and 4, you'll need to submit a written report, and this is between 1,500 and 2,000 words. For level 6, you'll need to submit an engineering practice report, and this is between 4,000 and 5,000 words. So it's a reflective report. It will demonstrate how during the course of your apprenticeship you have obtained the knowledge, skills and behaviours required of your level, and you should write it in the first person. You'll also need to include a title page which states your word count. I'll briefly touch on the written report here. Just to mention, there are separate webinars on the written report for levels 3 and 4 which go into the knowledge, skills and behaviours in a bit more detail with some examples. For now, I'll just give a basic overview on what is required. You can always refer to the CIBSE website for other webinars on endpoint assessment. What do you need to demonstrate in the written report? This will be a reflective account where you'll need to present 3 examples of where you solved a technical problem, explaining your role and how you selected the appropriate techniques, procedures and methods used, 3 examples of how you identified, planned and organised the resources effectively, and 3 examples of how you complied with the CIBSE Code of Conduct. And now I'll briefly touch on the engineering practice report on level 6. Again, please refer to the CIBSE website for a more detailed webinar on what exactly is required for this, as well as further information on EPA. The engineering practice report is a reflective written report of between 4,500 and 5,000 words, in which you demonstrate how, during the course of your apprenticeship, you obtain the knowledge, skills and behaviours expected of a competent building services design engineer. You'll give a general overview of the type of work and training you have undertaken. You'll include a table setting out the different projects in which you have participated and which you will describe later in the body of your report. This can be one long project or several smaller ones. You should summarise the key features of each project and link your learning and experience back to the level 6 standard, as you will be assessed on the knowledge, skills and behaviours that are listed there. And finally, the report must be verified by a professionally qualified engineer at either IEng or CIEng level. And this is just a sample page from the engineering practice report. I would stress at this stage the importance of really studying the documents for each of the standards that are on the CIBSE website. you'll be able to see exactly what you're being assessed on and the pass criteria used for both the presentation and the structured interview. For the final part of this presentation, I'll just talk a little about the structured interview. So you will have submitted your documents roughly 3 weeks before, and it will come to the day of your interview. In this section, I'll touch on briefly how the interview will be structured and how it will be conducted. This webinar is working under the assumption that interviews are to be conducted remotely. You will receive instructions around 2 weeks after you have submitted your application, which will confirm this. So on the day, firstly, just make sure you're well prepared, that everything is working, and you're in a quiet, well-lit and comfortable environment. Have an original item of ID ready to present. The interview can't go ahead without this. And there will be 2 trained and experienced CIBSE assessors conducting the assessment. On occasion, there may be an observer present, but they will not be there to assess you. So this is how the assessment will work. You'll have your 10-minute presentation, and this will be followed by a 10 to 15-minute question and answer session. Following this, there will take place a structured interview, which is informed by the knowledge, skills and behaviours you have focused on in your written report, and this will last between 30 and 40 minutes. So level 6 is a similar process to levels 3 and 4. You'll give your 15 to 20-minute presentation. This will be followed by a question and answer session of 15 to 20 minutes. And following this, there will be a structured interview which will last 40 to 50 minutes. And this will be informed by the content of your engineering practice report. For the interview itself, there will be 4 areas of focus, and at least 1 question will be asked from each of them. One of the areas is technology and problem solving. The other is management. The other is communication. And the 4th is commitment and ethics. So the assessors will ask questions, but all the questions they ask will be informed by the report you have submitted. So there shouldn't be any surprises for you. I'll finish this presentation with some final summarising points. To pass endpoint assessment, you must address the knowledge, skills and behaviours set in the standard of the level you're applying for. While the written report and the engineering practice report, you need to address every competency. For the presentation, you only need to address certain competencies. So bearing this in mind, please do review all the documentation relevant to your level of study prior to submitting your presentation and report. And finally, within 6 weeks of your interview, you will find out the result. Your official certificate will come from the Education, Skills and Funding Agency, the ESFA. The reason why it takes 6 weeks is because it goes to a member registration panel who review every assessment, so this can take a bit of time. So, all that's left to say at this stage is good luck. Remember that there are online resources to help you out, and the membership team can help you out with any general queries. If you have any questions, just contact us on the email address on this page. Please also do take a look at our other webinars, which specifically look at the requirements for the written report and the engineering practice report. I hope you found this presentation helpful, and all the best with your application.